Happy Sunday, everybody. Thanks for coming by and checking me out again today. The other day we had Mega John Bass, and as I said, we're going to get with MC A.D.E, who is Adrian Hines. This guy does it all. He's an American producer, he's a rapper. He, pretty much pioneered the subgenre of hip hop called Miami bass music. His first single coming out back in 1985 called Bass Rock Express, and then he followed it up with just different dope damn songs, bass music songs like um, Bass Mechanic, The Train, and it just goes on different compilations, everything like that. So without further ado, I just want to introduce him. How you doing, Mr. ADE?
Hey, what's going on, man?
I'm hanging in there, brother, hanging in there. Glad you could make it and honor us. I know my audience have been looking forward to this for quite a while. And so we just want to kind of know about you and how you got down into the music industry. Tell us a little bit. How did it all start, my friend?
um, hmm, well, it just started one day by I guess happenstance. I My dad had a record store and he basically and I used to he had a record store in Fort Lauderdale
Mm-hmm.
and I used to go up in the summer times and work with him.
Mm-hmm.
And one summer, um, we were leaving the record store and we wind up in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't tell me where we were going. It was actually the studio where Betty Wright, Casey and the Sunshine Band, and all of those guys recorded at Henry
Mm-hmm.
Stone Studio. And we wind up in the studio, and so I'm just a kid, you know what I'm saying? Around 12 years old, 12, 13, somewhere up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And uh they were making a record. Frank Canillas was the engineer. Um Amos Larkin like kind of ran the studio at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad brought in Frank. Frank was a little more, seasoned at the time. Amos was younger.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I get to the studio and I'm like, okay, I'm tripping out because it's a major studio, and I never been in a studio, period.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, just like a kid tagging along, and then, um, sexy lady was there,
Mm-hmm.
um, and she was there, but you could tell she wasn't too pleased about whatever was going on, the session or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So she knew me from the record store. And in the record store, I was the youngest person in the record store, but I was real, you know, quick with the music and picking up on stuff. And so her first inclination was like, Aiden, what you think about this track? What you feel about it?
Mm-hmm.
And because she couldn't exactly put her finger on it, but it just something wasn't vibing to her. So I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, if it was me, I'll do it a little different, I'll do the beat and, it'll be different. So
Mm-hmm.
so she told Frank, she said, Frank, why don't you listen, see what he's talking about, see what Adrian talking about, yada yada yada. And and I understand Frank, because they had a whole record done, you know what I'm saying? The
Mm-hmm.
whole project, full she's talking about listen to this kid who never been in a studio before, so
Right.
that was a little wild, and she was like, she asked him, he said, oh, that kid don't know what he's talking about. And then she went and you know start dealing with my dad, and she was like, a woman
Mm-hmm.
thing, and he was like, okay, all right, Frank says you don't have to erase that track, right? Just pull that down and placate the kid,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so I can make her happy. Um, so we did that, and Frank pulled out the drum machine and took it down to the bare bones, just boop, 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 boop. Okay, how you want that to go? So I beat the beat, and we went through, the snares, the hi hats, everything. And he's like, "How you want this? How you so?" But I had, you know, also melodies and stuff in my head, ding, ding, ding,
Mm-hmm.
ding, ding, ding. So I'm just, you know, giving off what's in me,
Mm-hmm.
And when we got through with that track, it was jamming so hard, we never heard that original track again.
Hmm.
We put out Beefbox, and we had every pressing plant from Miami to Fort Lauderdale locked down. And that created a big buzz, because it was like, who are these guys, and what's going on? And and then what's this music they're doing? This
Mm.
rap thing, and yada yada yada, because it was only like music out of New York at the time, like Sugar
Mm-hmm.
Hill and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we broke the mold, for the South with that,
Mm-hmm.
starting the hip hop.
Yep.
And on top of that, the record was so hot that nobody else could press. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And we had all the pressing plants locked down, and that was the start. Well,
Right.
I didn't really know what I did. I had no clue. You know what I'm
Huh.
saying? I didn't even get producer credit on the record. You
Was
know,
that mainly for like the percussion parts, or was there any specific parts that you kind of contributed that you can remember?
everything to the record. You understand what I'm
Everything.
saying? Everything. It
Uh-huh.
was my creation. I couldn't program it, but I directed the whole thing.
Mm.
You see,
Wow.
it wasn't planned to be something real. You
Uh-huh.
understand? It wasn't.
Right.
That was never the thought pattern. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, let's see how this works out. You understand what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So it was just totally on me. You understand what I'm saying? Like, okay, you go ahead.
You do
Yeah.
this and you do okay. You
Yeah,
were
yeah,
kind of
you take a shot. Ha 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 ha.
like the
Yeah,
director of the orchestra, right?
right. So it
Mm-hmm.
was like it was expecting or expectance, like I was going to fail, but I didn't know I was going to succeed. You
Succeed. And
understand what I'm
that's like
saying?
your first credit for production.
Yes.
Let's take a listen to it. I actually pulled it up real quick to let
Hmm.
our audience know what we're talking about, because this was a regional release, like a local sort of record. But I actually heard the record way back in the day, and I used to kind of feature it in my little DJ sets or whatever. But I'd like to go ahead and
Sure.
share screen it. Hold on just a second. We're gonna get the audio in here too, because I want to hear it and really hear the just from from that age as your first project. This is
Yeah.
really this is really something else. So check this out, guys.
See, I go by the name of the chief, and like a box of astronaut fast release. So don't just stand there in a daze. Listen to sexy lady, you'll be amazed.
Plum, fizz and fizz, I'm sexy lady. Hey, what it is?
See, there was a powwow in the Indian tribe. Everybody in the TV world feeling the vibes. Then the chief got up, he started to dance. So if you want to rock, this is your chance. So a dude jumped up, he did the smirk. He rocked the planet Mars and the planet Earth. He started to spin and he started to break. So this sucker DJ, I started to take. I grab a bow and arrow. My friend said no, just take the mic and rock this show like this, y'all. Like that, y'all. I'm looking for the beef. Where's that, y'all?
See, I'm about to be, yes indeed. And I know, homeboys, what you need. No other young ladies can compare. And if you see my beat, stop and stare.
Wow, that was really ahead of its time, back in Florida at that particular moment. I mean,
Hmm.
because even the rhyme skills back then, that was really clever.
Oh yeah, it was. And like even in that track, I'm listening, like you hear that that's going on. That was
Mhm.
from like 122. Remember, remember beat 122?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it had that kind of sound in it. So
Yeah, the little
yeah,
sequencer, yeah. Mhm.
exactly. So that was, like I said, I worked in the record store. You know what I'm saying? So my brain, I was just full. I had, you know, education of all kind of music, and
Mm.
what people don't understand when you work in a record store, and then our record store, we had two of them, and and they were big. We sold rock and roll, blues, jazz, reggae. And when
Mhm.
someone comes in for a record, you have to be able to find out what they like, and then you have to sell them records after that. So you
Mhm.
got to be really in tune with that music and what they're into, and
Right.
because you have to keep selling them records, and so you have to learn. It's a learning curve that
Mhm.
you got to learn. You got to learn different genres of music.
Yes, and the skill that goes along,
Yes.
like when I hear that record, like what sort of influence? Because I hear a lot of, I don't even know if this was. It's so hard to pinpoint it. Freestyle was kind of out with Planet Patrol and
I
people like
would
that.
say Pretty Tony.
Pretty
Okay,
Tony
like
was
fix it,
influence.
like fix it in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Most definitely. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
That taught me, like, you know, our groove here. You understand what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Yep.
Fix it in the mix was really, you know, uh, the birth for me for knowing how to jam and how to make our beat
Oh yeah.
patterns. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you guys use the 808 with that record, or was that another machine? Because it kind of
I
sounds a
I
little
think that
different,
was a
but
909 at the
mm,
time. I think
mm-hmm.
that might have been a 909 then. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so is that kind of what launched you into wanting to produce your own record, the MCADE concept? How did that
No,
bridge or how did that happen?
no. I man, like I said, I never thought about making a record. You
Mm,
know, I never desired to make a record.
mm-hmm,
It just happened by happenstance, just like that I actually produced that record. And
mm,
then what happened, my dad, I went back home. I went back to
mm,
Miami, and he was still, doing his thing and selling the records. And then he started, trying to produce other records. But
mm-hmm,
the records can, and then, rappers popping up out of the woodwork, and, all kind of stuff. But it was a lot of records that were flops, and they were not, just wasn't, working.
mm-hmm,
And I remember, like, I came back, or when, I came back, I don't know, was it that the next year or the next year after that? But one day I had no desire, what I'm saying, to make a record. I was just happy for the people making records, and like, hey, I knew them,
mm,
and it was all cool. Um and one day he just stepped to me, and he was like, I was actually on the turntable making a tape. I don't know, was it a tape or 8 track, but
mm,
making it for one of the customers or something.
mm-hmm,
And he stepped to me and he was like, "Why don't you make a record? Because you the one that really made that first record."
mm-hmm,
Everybody caught amnesia, what I'm saying, from that first record. So so
mm-hmm.
so so he was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, why don't you make a record?" And I'm like,
Mm,
I I still it never dawned on me, even up until that point, that I did that other record. That just
mm,
didn't. it
Register,
didn't
yeah.
it didn't register,
Mm-hmm.
And so when he said that to me, I'm like, okay, I don't know, he tripping. Well, okay, that's what he want, you know. Um, and then so he started, because he had in mind this record that people were looking for. Uh, I don't, they say it was Trans Europe Express, but it was a little different than Trans Europe
Mm-hmm.
Express because it had this whole nother sound. I never heard that record, and I know Trans Europe Express, but this one was different, and nobody, could find this record. And like I said, there's only one DJ group, CM Express DJs, that had that record, and they wouldn't tell nobody where they got it from. It was a 12-inch, but it had this
Mm.
huge horn on it. It was bigger than the Trans Europe Express one, and it
Mm.
was, man, it was a bad record, man. But
Mm.
my dad, because he got so tired of people asking him for the record, and he was like, just like he did when he started with the doing the beef box, he was like, hey, they like this rap. So he started making rap. And now they
Mm-hmm.
wanted this train record, and he was like, well, I'll make it. And
Mm-hmm.
and then, me and him standing there and we're talking, and he was like, yeah, we need to make a record, with the train, like this train record, train sound, yada yada. So I'm like, okay. And so that's when we start, you know, coming up with the name. And for me, I'm sitting there, and he's asking me for ideas, and I'm looking at the stereo, and it says bass and treble. And I used to always crank up the bass and blow the speakers. So for me, my first inclination was, man, if I could have a record with more bass, you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
just from working in the record store and dealing with the amplifier, just always cranking the bass, I could never get enough of that. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that was where that whole bass thing came to me,
Mm.
uh and and I used to love like the track It's Yours, you
It's
know.
yours, yeah.
Yeah,
Tila Rock,
yeah.
yeah.
It's yours. Boom, 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 back. Boom, boom,
Boom,
back. Yeah,
boom.
you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So it was like they had like a heavy kick, but I wanted more.
More.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. I know what you mean. Like you listen to a lot of these early electro funk records, like because I was DJing even way back then when I was like 13, 14 years old, around this same period. And it's like the records, like you play like a song like Cheap Thrills, and like the
Yeah,
kicks were so tight, and it's
yeah,
like bop, bop. I mean, it cut through the mix, I guess, but it
yeah,
didn't really give you that boom. Like when I heard Man Perish, that hip hop bebop record, it had more boom in it or
yeah,
something, and then
yeah,
Tila
yeah,
Rock
yeah,
and people like that. But
yeah,
your record came out and it just let loose the
yeah.
808
I got
monster.
chance because of the events that happened,
Mm,
because that first record, because of Beefbox, because what it did, and because my dad thought it was just easy to make a record because his first time making or producing a record as an executive producer was a
mm-hmm,
smash hit. So for
mm-hmm,
him, it was, oh, this is easy as pie. You understand what I'm saying? And so when it came to making my first record, I got chance to do whatever I wanted to do
mm,
because it was like whatever you want to do. You understand what I'm saying? It was like I was like, he was like, listen, we just gonna go to the studio because once we came up with the title, we had the bass, and I was like solid as a rock, and he was like on an express that can't be
mm-hmm,
stopped. So it was Bass Rock Express. And
mm-hmm,
he was like, because I'm questioning myself,
mm-hmm,
and he was like, all you gotta do is just go in the studio and do what you did before. That's
mm-hmm. That easy.
that easy. So 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 I'm like, okay. And then um I don't know, was it some weeks later or something, he just popped up one morning and he hollered to me from in the bathroom. He was shaving, was getting ready to go to the record store, and he was like, "You know, we got studio tonight." And I'm like, "What? You serious?" This guy never said nothing to me since that day
Mm.
in the record
Oh
store,
no. Hmm.
And I'm like, "Dude, come on, man. I'm a kid. I don't, I mean, that just went in one ear and out the other, and it's
Hmm.
like, and he's telling me he done booked the studio and we going in tonight. And I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I gotta have something, I can't say nothing. I just gotta, and so I'm sitting there, man, and I'm flustered. So I'm putting on my shoes and on channel was I would think it was on 33 and dun 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 boom boom dun 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 boom boom dun 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 boom boom, and I was like, that's it.
Perfect. Genius.
Perfect. And I'm like, because now I'm listening in my head what my dad said. He said,
Hmm.
you just do what you do, basically just freestyle. But I
Hmm.
need a catalyst. And the Green Acres, was the catalyst for me. So I was like, boom. So
Hmm.
I'll just go from there. And that's exactly what happened. Went
At
back to
that
the studio.
time, that's
Yeah.
the theme, the cartoon themes and movie themes and TV show themes.
Yes.
That was the thing back then.
Yes. Yes. And I was like, and see, I learned that from my dad because,
Hmm.
he did the beef box, and beef box was, that where's the beef, that was from that old lady in the Wendy's
Hmm.
commercial,
Hmm.
and he that that was his idea on doing that record, and because of the where's the beef, because where's the beef commercial or Wendy's was so
Hmm.
big at the time, so that's why
Everybody
we
was
did
trying
that.
to capitalize on that. I remember I spoke to Cosmo D from Nucleus, and
Hmm.
that song was on their record. Where's the beat?
Hmm.
Takeoff of Where's the Beef. He didn't even like the idea. It was somebody. Actually, that was somebody else.
Yeah.
He just laughed at the end of it. But yeah, that was
Yeah.
the thing. People were capitalizing on commercials and theme songs, and yeah, you were right there on time, bro.
Yeah, and because like I said, my daddy did this TV thing. I was like, and then and Green Acres coming on was one of my favorite shows at the time,
Hmm.
and I could just I could just hear it, and so that's what we went to the studio. We did, um and this time it was we had Amos as the engineer,
Mm.
and yeah,
Amos
and
Larkin, is that his last name? Yeah.
yeah, Amos Larkin, and we went
Hmm.
in and we broke out that's when Amos pulled out we had the 808,
Mm.
and we just basically, cuz when we got to the studio, like, Amos didn't know what we were doing,
Hmm.
because he was basically, like sneaking us in after hours anyway into the studio. And
Mm.
um so I, like I said, I had wrote the song though. I had wrote out
Mm.
the song once we had the title and everything, and so I wrote the lyrics out to the song, and boom boom boom.
Mhm.
And um and so when we got to the studio, it was like, okay, what we doing? Okay, we finna just recreate, you know, the last episode of me being in the studio. And
Mhm.
so broke out the drum machine, and just like Frank was, they could play, instruments and bass guitars, keyboards, and all that stuff. And again, I just directed, and but like I said, you know, even though I was young and a kid,
Mhm.
I was a little advanced
Mhm.
because of my musical,
Yep.
environment, so those rhythms, dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. That was just in me. All that
Mm-hmm.
stuff, those were just vibes, and
Mm.
so we did,
Did you
you
tool
know.
around with the 808 to get that sub kick to kind of, decay out a little bit? That
Well,
was your idea, I guess.
I all I could do is translate.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, this is what we're trying to do. This is what we want. And it Amos and Frank, they're great engineers, and they just knew how to give me what I was looking for, and it was just like, okay, do you want it right there? Okay, you want more of this? You want it? Yeah, okay, yeah, tighter, okay, bigger. Oh, so it just
Mm.
went on like that. So everything, um, that's how it happened. Because the whole purpose of me going into the studio at that time was to find this secret sauce or magic or whatever that was going on inside of me. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So it was just like, it was crazy, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, let's focus on the kid. What,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? Let's just, let's just follow his lead. What he
Right.
says, where he goes, because he hit this thing out the ballpark already,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and we had no clue. So now he may be a little more even better or seasoned,
Mm-hmm.
so we're going to follow him to the letter. And that's what we did. And that's why when you hear like my projects and my songs and stuff, you'll hear a lot of continuity. I work
Mm-hmm.
with different engineers and stuff like that, but you'll still hear that ADE sound, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
because that's who that's
You
me.
built
That's a part of
a
me.
distinction, like you made yourself distinct and recognizable among the rest of everyone else, which is really awesome. Talking about people like MC A.D.E, then they came after, and a lot of different ones. The ones who really rose to the crop were guys like you, who had a distinctive sound and your own brand, so to speak. Which brings me to the vocoder, because obviously you stuck with that one vocoder sound, which was almost reminded me of the processor from Planet Rock. The Don't Stop Planet Rock. It
Yeah.
had that sort of same, but yours had like this real big, like reminded you of a giant transformer or something.
I
Really in your
wanted
face.
I wanted like Dark Vader.
Yep.
You understand? I wanted that kind of, vibrato, and
Mm-hmm.
that big sound, and Amos, um, you know, because that's when we first started with that, and he helped me to get that sound. And that, you know, you had to you had to speak a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
you had to talk a certain way, and to
Mm-hmm.
create that sound. I've had a lot of people attempt to copy
Mm-hmm.
and do, that sound or what have you, and they've been very unsuccessful, uh
Mm-hmm.
because it's a character,
It
you know.
is. You got to perform it.
Yes, yes,
And project
and
that voice, and then you kind of
yes,
meet halfway with that processor, and that's a
yeah,
genius thing, because it gives you you'll always be distinctive because of that just that little interaction, just the way that
yeah,
it's set up is it's not like talking in some generic vocoder sound, like that anybody can emulate, but your
no,
sound was unique, and that's what I was saying. It rose you directly to the top, man. You were so distinctive from everyone else.
i I loved it. You know,
Mhm.
I love that sound. I love that it was so demanding and
Mhm.
commanding. It was so big and strong, and so that that's
That's
all I
that's
could
what it
do.
was. Let's
Yeah.
play a piece of it if you don't mind. Let the
Okay.
audience hear your first one with all
Okay.
these elements here.
Bass, rock, bass rise, Bass Rock Express. Bass Rock Express. Bass Rock Express. Bass Rock Express. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just boarded the Bass Rock Express. For your enjoyment, we have two JBL amps, two Pioneer equalizers, four Macintosh power drivers, and for your listening pleasure, on the side of each passenger seat, we have two 15, three horns, and four tweeters. In the control room, we have four Technique 1200 turntables and one Newmont mixer. Yours truly, mixing on the journey aboard the Bass Rock Express. A.D.E.
Yeah, that's tight, man. I remember hearing that record back then and just was like, what the hell is this? This is tight. Man, it was really rocking. Mm, You know, again, some of the continuity I noticed you stuck with those little horn. You always have those little horn blasts, and
The horns, I'll tell you where the horns and that sound came from.
mm,
It's a kid's brain. And for me, school bands.
hmm
So that was what I projected and um wanted to hear. So I that was, like I said, that was from a kid's state of mind of the school band, because the school
hmm
band, they, and if you hear, like, even music that came, like, even after, like, you got what's that, Take It to the House by Trick Daddy, you know what I'm saying,
hmm
that those horns, you understand
hmm
that I started putting in that kind of music like that. You see,
hmm
they kept using them. You understand?
mm,
And one reason I would imagine for that as well, because, like, Bass Rock Express, and Bass Mechanic, and, like you said, those horns I used in all my music, and those stabs and horns, and FAMU and all the colleges,
mm,
they would they would, they whoever was, when they would get out there and play my music, those
hmm
bands, they
Yep.
would win every
Yes.
every year. They have those big battle of the bands where all the colleges, and whoever was playing my stuff was taking home the trophy, you
hmm
know. And I've had so many DJs tell me, that they won so many battles and competitions because when they played my music, it just, them horns, it just was so royal,
Yeah.
and and regal. It just shut everybody down.
It really did. That's what people could get with that. It gave it that energy. It's like, by the time those records started coming out, I was moving to Richmond, Virginia, and I was DJing at all these military bases and even adult clubs, in these different, hoods up in Richmond, Virginia. And back then they wanted to hear everything from New York. Everything had to be from New York City. They wasn't trying to hear no Southern music or no West Coast. It was always just play that steady B, man. Play some, even back in the day, Run DMC, blah, blah, blah. But Two Live Crew came along and just shocked everybody, of course, and went nationwide with it. And so I was able to put your records in with like Throw That D and Get It Girl, and they were already into the
Yeah,
rhythm, the
yeah,
Miami bass
yeah.
808 sound. So that record
uh
came right in, and it just expanded that whole Miami bass
Genre.
influence
Yeah, yeah.
throughout the South like that. So,
Yeah.
again, hats off to you for helping my little DJ career back then.
That's what's up.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
man.
Get It Girl, I mean, man, Hobbs, man.
Hmm.
Hobbs was no joke.
He was no
It
joke,
would-
man.
Oh man, Hobbs was no joke, man.
What I
Man,
like,
Hobbs used to get down.
mm, all those
Yeah,
beats, man. They were the ones that really brought us out of the electro funk era and into something
yeah,
else, because before then it was very synth driven, and
yeah.
but then when the Two
It,
Live Crew
it
and
was a
these producers.
mixture of
Hmm.
that synth and then like the hip hop and you
Urban.
know, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah. It
turntable
was,
action, it sounded like Grand Mixer DST, like all that mega mix stuff going on,
yeah,
and just
yeah, yeah,
fast cutting to these up tempo 808 driven beats. So
yeah,
it was really distinctive. It had its own distinctive sound, and
yeah. Super
dude, you
dope.
were right. You were the pioneer though, man. You were the one that really launched that whole movement from the top, man. So what was it like after you guys released that first record? Because I know it went huge because it was big where I was at. So
Which one?
what was
Bass
it
Rock
like? Yeah,
Express? Oh,
Bass Rock Express, when that thing hit the streets, man, what was that like?
it was it was a little crazy because um at the time I didn't even we put it again, I'm not checked in.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not checked in with what's going on at all, you know. Um I did the record, left the studio that night because we did it all in that one night. You
Hmm.
understand? And just knocked it out. Boom, came out the studio, and I was on to the next page. I was, you know, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what was going on, what was happening. All that was going on behind me and behind the scenes or whatever. I had no clue. Um. Anyway, my dad gets the record, press up, boom, 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 boom. Um. I happened to go to the club one night. Club we had called the Panthers,
Hmm.
and it was like on the beach, Fort Lauderdale Beach, you know, Boss Club.
Hmm.
It was like a. It really was not made for this urban crowd, but it was like four doctors had created this club. It had $1 million light system in it. It wasn't made for us, but
Hmm.
because it wasn't getting this crowd, they start opening up different nights that,
Hmm.
we could come out of the hood and drive over here to this club and party.
Hmm.
So, you know, at the club one night, um, who was standing there? It was me, Renal No Regard,
Hmm.
Kane Dog, um, and we standing, over on the side, and we just chopping it up. We had the club. Gigolo was in the club.
Hmm.
Fat Ron,
Hmm.
because this was the hangout.
Hmm.
Standing standing there, and then all of a sudden, I think it was uh, Ron May. He went by Fat Man back then, but I think I don't know if it was him or Phil. One out the two. Anyway, um, played the record. Dun 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 dun. Boom boom. Dun dun. And when they stopped playing that, everybody rushed the dance floor,
Hmm.
like rushed to catch that climax when it hit, when it just dropped.
Hmm.
So I'm standing there and I'm in awe. I'm like, I'm happy to hear my record. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? I'm like, oh, but then I see the crowd's reaction. And I mean, they rushed the floor and it hit, bam, and they just going in.
Mm.
And I was just like, wow, what is going on? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So
Yeah.
it was it was going on behind the scenes, like I say, rather, it was from RBD, from like the radio station. I guess they had been playing it, but then people like Jam Pony Express was playing it,
Mhm.
and it had just I don't I didn't catch all those occurrences, but
Mm,
I could see the response, and it
mm,
it blew me away. I was just like, wow. I was just in awe, and
wow. And so
that
people were
was the first
bumping it.
time.
Yeah, they were bumping in clubs or in cars, and you had probably had no idea
No,
what
I
the
had
effect
no
was.
idea. I didn't know nothing like that. It was crazy. Yeah.
How long was it till you decided to come up with the follow up to it?
Uh, when I guess my dad said, you need to make another record. So
I bet he did. He was like,
yeah,
"Wake up, son!
yeah,
Getting out that studio again, buddy."
exactly. So when was that? That had to be the next year. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Yeah.
yeah, it was in '86, man.
Yeah, it's like the next year. It was just, it's time to do that thing again. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
Because
I used to like that record a lot. Like I think back then I liked it even better than the first one for some reason.
hmm
I was just feeling it. I don't know what it was. It just had like this kind of like Oriental sort of kung fu kind of
which
vibe
one?
to it. Um, that very next record,
Bass
not the
Mechanic?
bass mechanic. That's the one.
Okay, yeah.
And
Bass Mechanic. Well, you gotta figure. Bass Mechanic. I'm learning.
hmm
I'm evolving. I'm being able to articulate me better. You know,
hmm
and that's just what was happening. I was feeling myself more, learning me
absolutely.
more. Yeah.
Let me play this a little
Say
bit for our
again.
audience
I
here.
think our speakers are blown.
No, no, Lisa. Call MC A.D.E.
ADE? Dolly? Who's ADE?
I'm your bass mechanic, can it.
Hey.
You had even more horn. That's what I liked about it. You had more of the horn thing coming in. Like,
Bass mechanic. Time on the sensation produce what's being listened to. Examine my percussion, my reconciliation. To put it plain, the sample you want. A bass vibration.
Hey.
mm,
Bass mechanic.
man, I used to love that record, boy. That thing had me hooked, man. I was
That
like,
thing
you
was
got down on
jamming.
that one right there, buddy.
Oh
You was
man,
getting
that thing
down
was
on that one.
jamming.
When you came out with
Yeah.
that second one, I said, back then, at least where I was, they wasn't playing this stuff on the radio like that. So you
Yeah.
were going to the record store, and I was just there to see the Foresight record label and
hmm
MC A.D.E. I said, "Oh Lord, he done came out with a follow up. Let's check it out, man." I brought that thing home and blasted it, and man, that thing had me going. I was like, "Damn, this thing is rocking!" Like I was just hooked. I was playing it all the time. I couldn't stop playing the damn song. That groove just had me, man. I don't know what it was. It didn't ever get old, you know.
And that was my personal slogan, like, with a groove I can't lose.
Yep.
That was my own personal thing. With a groove I can't lose. And I remember when when I did Bass Rock Express, and Bass Rock Express came out and just super hot.
hmm
And from here to Europe, Brazil, and
Mm.
everywhere. And it was like, but people here, because they still wasn't on the bass thing, right?
Yep. Right.
They were like, Bass Rock Express, what the hell is that about? What is, you know? Um, so people was like, that's a fluke, you know. Who is this dude? And oh, his dad on the label and yada yada yada. Bull crap, it's fluff. What happened? Some kind of fluke.
hmm
So then when I did Bass Mechanic, that's when everybody say, "Oh, wait a minute." You understand what I'm
hmm
saying?
Yep.
Something's going on here. Something is going on with this whole bass thing,
hmm
and we can't just wave this guy off no more,
Mm-mm.
or it's
Mm-mm.
just it was a fluke or this and that, because now he done came back, and it seemed like he done came back harder.
Big
And
time.
yeah, so, so so that just started the whole wave, because Bass Mechanic got so hot, so big, that then after that it became the trend, and that's what started uh bass music,
Oh yeah.
because after that solidified you know
Hmm.
what I started. Bass
That's
Mechanic. Yeah.
exactly. I don't think Two Live Crew would have had the clutch that they had back then if it wasn't for you bringing that bass music genre to the damn scene to begin with.
Yeah.
So I already knew
Yeah.
all that. So it's like all they did is kind of open it up so I could go back and play all that stuff in my sets where I was DJing at, and I could imagine that's probably how it was for the rest of the world because if they weren't really getting with it. But that's the whole thing about grassroots, man. You blow up locally in your region and you bring that stuff out, and that seems like that was how it evolved for you and Pops, man. Y'all got that
Yeah.
record company going and got these little records going, man, and it just started a whole new bass vibration down there, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Real talk.
heck yeah.
And
And the train, man, you come such a long way, man, like from Bass Rock Express to where when you hear that record, The Train, it's like it comes to a whole other level. Like it starts getting more electronic music, into it. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what happened with the train. I was working on that album, How Much Can You Take?
Mm-hmm.
And I had studio time that day, and I don't know, maybe somebody didn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So, because you go in, you do one song at a time, you're knocking them out, whatever. So my dad calls me, because like Frank called him. I'm at the studio. Where's he at? What's going on? And I'm like, oh man, so it slipped my mind or something. So I'm like, oh man, damn. Uh, oh man. So I stopped by, because we had a studio at the office, like we had, pre-production and
Mm.
all that in it.
Okay.
So I'm like, damn, 'cause I didn't have a clue what I was gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped by the studio right quick, broke out the SB12, and just did that in about 30 minutes. Programmed that.
Mm.
And that boom, 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 boom,
Mm-hmm.
boom, 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 boom. Oh, it was beautiful.
Yes.
And I programmed that, like I said, in about 30 minutes. And just on the fly. And I was like, because I had to rush. I'm trying to rush to get to the studio. And I
Mm-hmm.
needed something, you know what I'm saying? So I just was like,
Wow.
because again, I just do what's in me.
That's so
You understand what
mystical,
I'm saying?
man, because it's almost like it's always at the last minute. It's always like, what am I going to do now? And then some mystical thing happens and it's in your mind to just project this huge idea that's just going to explode and vibrate the world, with ripples of effects all over the world with it. And
Yeah.
it's like, how in just a second, you've turned an idea into this huge thing that's become this reality that's just, I don't know, just amazing. Like when I heard The Train, I thought, wow, this dude has really stepped it up. Now you were like the first dude that really you started playing that 808 like a bass guitar, man.
Yeah,
Like
man.
you
I'm gonna
started
tell you,
using it
like I
like a bass
said,
guitar.
when I did that, I'm programming it, right? And I'm like, oh man, this is dope. I'm
Hmm.
loving it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm doing it on the fly, but it was
It's just
dope.
flowing. And then you had the
Yeah.
snares. Your
Oh man.
the thing about the 808 is anytime you tuned it or whatever, you had to do it live, and it's kind of hard because it's just going to clash somewhere along, and you're never going to get it back to the original exact setting. But with that
Well, once
SP,
you well, yeah,
yeah,
with the SP, you got your saved sounds. So
hmm
you can
make keys out
feel
of them.
free
Yeah.
to program. You
Yep.
understand what I'm saying? You're good. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna come out how you need it to come out because it's pre-saved. It's already set up for you,
Beautiful,
and
man.
you could. And one thing about the SB12, the syncopation that it will
Mm.
align itself to once you like you program it, and then it'll formulate it and give it back to you, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you
Yes.
know what I'm
Truncated
saying?
and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's just
Yeah,
wonderful.
you
But
it did, man. You gave that, and that's really part of what stepped it up, I think, is the fact that you mastered this new equipment that came out after the 808. And so you just got really creative. And so you were able to just project more creativity onto the world. You know what I mean? And that's really another influential marker because everybody started playing the 808 like a bass guitar, like a
yeah,
piano
yeah,
roll, like,
them tones, yeah.
yeah, it's
And
toning it
and
up and down, you know.
I did that with I think my first record I kind of did that on was a record um I had programmed because I at the crib, right? And had a drum machine, and we'd be at the crib, and all of us, would be just hanging out. Everybody hung out to my crib. But I used to always, and I had like uh DJ cabinets in the
Mm,
house. I had studio monitors in the house.
mm,
I had like two JBL studio monitors with 215s in each one with the studio horns.
mhm.
Crazy. And then regular DJ cabinets with 215s and horns. So I'm, playing my music.
Mm,
And I remember because I would program tracks and then I'll go back and listen to them later. But I programmed this one track, and I'm going through and I'm listening to my sticking my disc in the SP12, and I'm like, what was this? Playing it, and I might have was had done smoked some weed and
mhm,
programmed, and just
mhm.
and so I'm listening back to this track, and it's boom 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 boom, and DJ Man was like,
Mm.
DJ Man say, what's that? And I was like, I don't know.
Hit hard, hit hard, hit hard.
Exactly. And Man actually said it. He was like, man, it's hitting so hard. He was like, it's just hitting hard. And I was like, oh, he was like, man, you got to do that one, this and that. I was like, okay. And then that's where, he gave me the idea for the hit hard. And it was like,
Mhm.
and that's how, and, because that was the first, because I didn't know what that was. I
Well, let me
was,
play. I want to play both those
okay,
records. I got them pulled up. Let me play the
okay.
train first. Let them hear what this is all about.
The train is on the scene. The bass is strong. Ladies and gentlemen, ADE is on.
Man, you could they I heard that song in a club not long ago, man.
Oh,
This
yeah.
yeah, DJ was mixing it right in, man, at this club
Wow.
not long ago. Still it's booming, man. The record is so current. It has that dance music flavor because I think the DJ was mixing in some techno music along with that record. And it fit
Oh,
right in because you got that little you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
know, you
yeah.
got that whole groove going, and I think he was just looping that part. And yeah, your records were way ahead of its time, especially when you drop that one too. But again,
Yeah,
Hit Harder, that's another one that
yeah. But that bass on, like I said, on the train, man, that
mm-hmm,
was like one of my. That's got to be like in my top. Top. That might be the top one of my programming a bass pattern.
no doubt.
Because it was so harmonious.
Mm-hmm.
It was boom, 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 boom. It was beautiful. It was the right note.
Yep.
The melody. It was just harmonious, man. It was beautiful,
And all the
beautiful.
breaks they fit. They went. They went in. They really flowed well from one transition to the other. Like when you went to that little sequencer part, and then
Hmm.
even the string line from Planet Rock or whatever, duh,
Yeah,
duh, 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 like
yeah.
all that stuff was right in key, right in tune, flowing right with it. So when you come back with that little breakdown again, boom, 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 like that
Boom,
stuff
boom,
was just
boom, boom.
heavy, man.
Yeah. Well, that was like I said, from learning, from being around so much music. It was just, you knew how to, and I used to DJ too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, even I had started DJing at that same club I was telling you about,
Mm-hmm.
and I had got so good at DJing that I could go in there. I'll be at the record store. I'll make a 120 minute or 90 minute tape, right?
Yeah.
I'll make it and I'll get to the club. I'll, start them out, boom, 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 and then I'll slip a tape in, right?
Mm-hmm.
It had four turntables. Put needles on all the turntables are spinning, so people, because it's glass, you can look into the booth and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was so good at making people vibe and dance, and I could record store. You
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
knew how to, captivate people and keep them moving and vibing,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I could go from, you know, jamming, slow music to reggae. I would have it all lined up, and I would keep those people on the floor, you know, and I'm not even spinning live,
Right.
but I
Right.
just knew
Yep.
the you know,
You know what they're gonna like, man, because and
yeah,
you
I
know
knew
the
what they were gonna like.
transition. You had the skill for making those transitions really
Yeah,
smooth, and you can hear that in the mixes of your music. Even the way you're arranging your patterns and putting stuff together is really good, smooth transitions. That they, how a lot of folks will like, especially early records like that. When like now everything's just a big loop and it just builds and builds and builds until the end. But
hmm,
back then they used to have break, chorus,
yeah,
verse, chorus, break part, whatever.
bridge,
Yeah,
yeah,
and so it would be like that. Maybe the chorus was the real exciting part, and then it goes to the verse. It's like it deadens out again, and so the
yeah,
energy was kind of up and down. But your energy just kept right there
yeah.
among
You
that.
had to keep it, and like I said, that was just, that was a job
Hmm.
to keep music moving like that. But
Hmm.
knowing people, and I credit that to that record store, man.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, let's check this out, man. I want to hear "Hit Harder" really quick. This is
Hmm.
again tuning those bass kicks off the 808 sound,
Hmm.
and with some vocals, rap vocals.
Down for the hood. We gonna do what for the hood? Yeah. We gonna do it down for the hood. Okay, we gonna do it hood style for the fellas. Hood style for the fellas. Hit hard, hit harder, 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 hit hard, hit hard, hit harder. Now this rhyme you hear is coming from me, the D.O.G. Bonafide A.D.E. Repeatedly saying who and where I'm slaying. The sex from me, y'all the ladies I'm paying. And talking about jacking all on that tip.
Yeah, man. That one was a lot different than the other records, but it still had that bass, man, and it still had that vibe, and it really the see, there's a few things I can say about that record. Number one, it is hard to mix vocals clearly when you've got a heavy sub bass going on in the background. If you don't know what you're doing as far as engineering, that 808 is going to either be distorted and you're not going to hear the vocals cut
Listen,
through.
listen.
Let them know.
Frank Cornelius. Okay, listen. That that man mixing. He, you know, I did the essence, right? But it took his skill to take it to that next level. You understand? He just nasty with the mixes. Like I
Mm,
never been around nobody that can, just do the things that he do with a mix and how he can
mm,
take a sound and man, I learned so much being around him, because he came from a family, uh they made their record Treat Her Like a Lady, the Cornelius brothers and sisters, Sister Rose, and
mm,
so they was professional. They had number one records, in the world and stuff like that. So,
mm,
and he was, so when I started with a professional. You
mm-hmm,
understand? I didn't
mm-hmm.
start in a basement or somewhere. I started at the gate with a professional.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hmm. And that's why those records are timeless because when you
Yes.
mix them right and you engineer them right and they sound
Yes.
clear and they cut through and the bass is so heavy, they still compete with these
Listen,
records today, man.
I listen to like, my stuff. I have, like it's like, long times and I'll put in, check out something. Sounds so good. I'm
Hmm.
talking just tight. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? The mixes are just, I mean, the sounds, the mixes, it's just, I mean, hitting so hard, it's like, wow.
Hmm.
Just, it blows my mind. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? How good that stuff sounds. It really sounds good.
And so innovative, especially like that was more of a real slower tempo rap record that you could play in somewhere like in my sets with along with some of these New York rappers at the time,
Hmm.
um type of records. And what made it stand out was the fact that that bass was just booming like hella
Yeah.
hard, man, like way over top of the stuff that was going on at the time. Like,
Yeah.
they were just using a maybe they were like looping some James Brown records or something, and they had maybe a little Marley Marl would throw in a little 808 here and there, but
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
stuff was like all 808, just boom, boom, boom. It's doing something different and
Yeah.
doing it
Yeah.
very well, in fact,
Yeah. It was, and like I said, I programmed that record and forgot I did it. I had several records like that. I did like that, but that was one that I totally forgot about and just playing the stuff in the drum machine. And man heard it and he was like,
Mm.
he just lost his mind when he heard it. And I was like, I was tripping because I was like, damn, what was I on?
That was on the B side of the Train, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So how
Yeah.
did that record do? I can imagine that record did
Oh man,
phenomenal.
that it did phenomenal. That record, I remember I looked up one day and TLC them was doing the award shows and they was performing and they had the train playing, while they was doing their performance.
Mm.
Um MJG and 8 Ball, they redid, they did the song called Pimp Hard, Pimp Harder,
Mhm.
and that came from Hit Hard, Hit
Mhm.
Harder.
Mhm.
So that's like when I used to, when we had Usher them, and you know, they used to,
Mhm.
when he used to come down, him and the group, and we did projects on them and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and their
Mm-hmm.
thing was, it was like, yo, you know, we chilling with ADE, and because all the back where he was from and all of that, it was just you
Mm-hmm.
know just the hottest stuff popping,
Heck
man.
yeah. Heck yeah. So
Yeah.
do you have any future projects coming out at this point in time you want to share?
Uh, I'm like I said, I was doing some stuff right before this COVID thing, and then we kind of pulled back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was really, just working on my daughter's stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I had, project that I was doing, and like I said, I pulled back because we couldn't do the video with people with masks and all of that. It just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't
Mm-hmm.
working.
Yeah. Right.
So so now, you know, getting back into the swing of things, and you know, we'll see what happens. But music is who I am, so
Mm-hmm. You just keep
definitely.
going. It's gonna always
Yeah,
keep going with you. Okay.
yeah.
Well, we definitely looking forward to anything that you may be coming out with in the future, and keep us posted. And I'll definitely keep my audience posted. So, and again, thank you so much, man, for coming through. And I want to respect your time. It's been a little over an hour, but I've learned a lot, and hopefully our audience have learned a great deal about your history. I know you've done lots of interviews, a lot of write-ups and things of that nature. Hopefully try to cover something that wasn't covered, but you've just been so out there, and you're very prolific artist from way back when. So everything's probably out there spoken of about you in some form or other. But
Yeah.
thank you so much, man, for sharing it here with me, man, on my little platform. I appreciate you, bro. This is a dream come true, to be honest with you.
Well, I appreciate it, man, and I appreciate the respect, and it's a blessing. I thank the Father that
Mhm.
you know because I never could imagine that I would do something that create a genre of music.
Mhm.
That's
Man, imagine
yeah.
that stuff, man. Your
Yeah.
life, you being here has created a huge difference on this planet, in some form
That's
or another.
heavy, dude.
So
That's
that's really
heavy.
deep, man. It's really
That's
deep, and
heavy.
it's an
Yeah.
honor, man. It's an honor even to know you and be talking to you. So thank you so much again, man. And hopefully we have you on in the future. And until then, guys, please like and subscribe if you like the content that I have. August 5th, I've got MC Globe from the Soul Sonic Force on again to talk about his latest project that he's working on and who he's working with. So we're going to look forward to that. But in the meantime, you guys have a great weekend, and we're going to catch up.